She kissed me goodbye with lipstick that wasn't mine and a suitcase that screamed, "I'm cheating." She didn't even flinch as she wheeled it past the front door, just blew a kiss and said, "I'll be back Monday. It's mostly seminars." Swimsuits, high heels, a white sun hat still tagged from Nordstrom. The only medical thing she packed was a bottle of melatonin gummies. I stood in the hallway for a moment after the door shut, the echo of her heels still ticking down the porch. Then I walked to the kitchen. Her laptop was still open, half tucked behind the fruit bowl like an afterthought. The email tab was active, blinking faintly with a mockingly subtle glow. I clicked it. Confirmation. Thank you for booking with Oceanside Retreat, Nassau. 1 Ocean View Deluxe Suite. Guest name, Mrs. Dana Larkson. Stay includes couples escape package. Not Dana Thompson. Dana Larkson. Alias. She'd created a whole new name for this fantasy. Didn't even bother logging out. I took a screenshot. Then another of the reservation attachment. I forwarded them to myself with the subject line, "Game on." And while I'm here, if you've made it this far and you're one of the 98% watching without hitting that subscribe button, do me one favor. Click it. This is my first time chasing something that isn't about revenge or resentment, just trying to hit 10,000 subs. You'd be shocked how much it motivates this little team behind the scenes to keep building better stories. All right, back to the storm. She thought she was clever. Thought I wouldn't notice the sudden surge in yoga retreats, the weekly waxing appointments she forgot to mention, the way she wore perfume to Zoom meetings. But I'm an architect. I notice angles. I notice structure. And hers was collapsing. I didn't yell. Didn't call. I just opened a new tab, looked up the number for the hotel concierge, and dialed. "Good afternoon, Oceanside Retreat. This is Kelsey speaking. How can I assist you today?" "Yes, I'm calling in reference to a reservation under Dana Larkson. I'd like to make a few modifications." She paused. "Are you Mrs. Larkson?" I smiled. "I'm her husband." Silence. Then chirpy professionalism. "Of course, Mr. Larkson. How may I help?" "Well, it's our anniversary. I want to surprise her. Can you upgrade the room to your best couple suite? Something with a view, roses, champagne, the whole 9 yards. And please leave a welcome note from her husband. Oh, and charge everything, including the extras, to the card on file for Mrs. Larkson." "Yes, sir. That's certainly possible." I ended the call and leaned back. You see, I didn't need to scream or slam doors. I didn't need to demand answers. Because Dana was about to walk into her own perfect little trap with the man she thought I'd never find out about. And she wouldn't realize it was rigged until the bill came. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Larkson," the receptionist said with that extra cheerful tone hotel staff save for honeymooners and heavy tippers. Dana froze. Just for a second, barely long enough for the man beside her to notice. But I saw it. Later, when I replayed the hotel's Instagram video. Yes, they filmed their check-ins for social media now. God bless influencers and bad decisions. I caught the flicker, hesitation, then laughter. "Oh, wow," she chuckled, brushing a curl behind her ear. "You guys really go all out." Vince, tall, tan, wearing one of those shirts with buttons that only reach halfway, raised a brow. "Mr. and Mrs. Larkson," he said under his breath. Dana patted his chest. "Relax. It's a check-in alias. For privacy." He didn't argue. He also didn't look convinced. The front desk staff handed them the keys in a small envelope with a red wax seal stamped in the shape of a seashell. Very on-brand. Very romantic. "Enjoy your lover's escape package," the receptionist added with a wink. Dana leaned into the lie like a gymnast sticking the landing. "Oh, we will." Meanwhile, I was sitting in my reading chair, sipping lukewarm decaf, watching an email notification pop up on my phone. Chase credit alert. Your card ending in 3392 has been charged $1,422.84 at Oceanside Retreat. The breakdown? Ocean View Deluxe Suite Upgrade, Anniversary Special. Romance Basket, chocolate-covered strawberries, champagne, scented oils, hilariously cliché. Couples massage, private terrace. Note printing service fee, one of my favorite parts. They'd printed my message on ivory cardstock. To my dearest Dana, a weekend of memories awaits. Love always, your husband. I paid extra to make sure it was handwritten in calligraphy. And yes, every penny billed to Mrs. Vince Larkson. Because when you cheat using a fake name, you better pray that name isn't tied to someone else's real wife, with a real bank account and a real temper. Speaking of which, I was already drafting the next move. Dana's burner email was linked to a public Pinterest account where she'd saved vacation outfit ideas. Red bikini, beaded anklet, matching caftans, a post captioned, "Finally getting what I deserve." She had no idea how true that would turn out to be. The concierge sent me a thank you for the tip I left under Mr. Larkson. 5 stars for creativity, they said. Dana thought this trip was going to be an escape. I was making it the crime scene. I didn't need to hack anything. People betray themselves loudest when they think no one's watching. Her fake email, thompson.escape84@protonmail.com, was sloppily linked to a throwaway Pinterest account, an old Spotify profile, and a very public Instagram under the name D_Larkson. Classy. Real secret agent level work. The Instagram was a goldmine. Photos of palm trees, infinity pools, feet in sand selfies captioned "Earned this," and my personal favorite, a blurry picture of Dana holding a neon pink cocktail, straw in her mouth, captioned #wife on the loose. I took screenshots of everything. Cropped. Dated. Geotagged. The resort's account had reposted the image. Some social media in turn probably thought she looked like a fun guest. I screen captured that, too. Then I opened the banking app and grabbed the billing history. Itemized charges all tied to the same card. Everything was timestamped. Every massage. Every rose petal. Dana thought deleting text would hide the affair. But she'd built a public shrine to it. Now Vince. I hadn't forgotten about him. He'd shown up in a few background shots on D_Larkson's page. A reflection in her sunglasses. His hand in hers. And in one frame, sloppily cropped but unmistakable, you could see his whole face. It didn't take much to reverse search that image. LinkedIn coughed him up within minutes. Vincent Larkson, Regional Sales Executive, Thermex Corp. I kept digging. Married to Amanda Larkson. Art teacher. Her LinkedIn banner was a mural she'd painted at a community center. Children's hands, doves, blue sky. A woman who taught oil pastel basics on weekends and posted inspirational quotes like, "Healing begins where honesty lives." Married 22 years. 2 grown sons. 1 golden retriever named Baxter. I know this because the retriever had its own profile. I opened my inbox. Clicked compose. No venom. No rant. Just 3 attachments. A screenshot of the room charge bill to Mrs. Vince Larkson. A photo of Dana clinking glasses with Vince under the caption, "Weekend Escape Red Heart." A cropped invoice marked, "Lover's Package, 2 guests, 1 bed." I wrote, "Hi Amanda. Thought you should see what your card's paying for. F." I stared at the cursor for a second, then hit send. That's the moment the fuse lit. Because Dana didn't just betray me. She used someone else's name to hide her mess and dragged a stranger into it. Amanda didn't deserve this. But Dana? She was about to learn that when you play wife in someone else's name, the real one tends to answer. The reply came 6 hours later. Subject line, what your card's paying for. Message body, call me. No punctuation. No salutation. Just those 2 words. I could almost hear the tightness in her throat. I dialed. Hello. Her voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that's sitting on top of a mushroom cloud. This is Frank. She let out a breath that sounded like she'd been holding it for 20 years. Hi. For 2 hours, we talked. And I don't mean small talk. I mean talked. The kind of conversation that only happens when 2 people are staring down the smoldering ruins of everything they used to believe in. She told me Vince hadn't held her hand in years. That their anniversary dinners had turned into drive-through pickups. That he always kept his phone face down, like it was allergic to sunlight. She'd suspected, of course. But the extent? The hotel? The suite? And Dana? I told her about the shifts. The subtle lies. The fake work calls. The fact that my wife, could pack a suitcase with swimsuits and candlelit lingerie, look me in the eye, and say she was going to a conference on spinal inflammation. Amanda laughed at that. One sharp, bitter bark of a laugh. Men lie with silence, she said. Women lie with color-coded calendars. We talked about the masks people wear in long marriages. How easy it is to pretend. to protect the routine. How terrifying it is to admit the person next to you became a stranger while you were still setting the table for two. Then, just as the call was winding down, she said, "I'm sending you something." A few minutes later, my inbox pinged. It was a PDF, a scanned copy of her credit card statement. Everything from the oceanside trip highlighted in yellow. Room service, the boutique spa, even a purchase from a Sensual Silks pop-up kiosk near the beach. $319.94 for lingerie Dana never intended for me to see. Attached was a second file, a formal email draft addressed to the Board of Trustees, Kindbridge Women's Wellness Foundation. That's Dana's nonprofit. Turns out, Dana hadn't used her personal email to book the flight to the Bahamas. She'd used her corporate address. Because when you're rushing to coordinate a secret tryst between work obligations, you forget which mask you're wearing. Amanda's message to the board was devastatingly precise. No accusations, just documented charges, reservation details, and one line. This may not reflect well on the organization's commitment to ethical leadership. She didn't need to add anything else. Before we hung up, Amanda said, "I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it because she dragged my name into her lie, and I clean up my name." I said, "Same here." We never talked about what comes next. We didn't have to. Some people make noise. Others, like Amanda and me, we send PDFs. The sun was perfect that morning, too perfect. The kind of clear, endless blue that feels artificially bright, like a vacation ad you don't quite trust. Dana lay out on a lounger in a strappy white bikini, sipping something neon from a coconut, sunglasses perched high on her forehead like she'd just solved her life. She hadn't. She'd detonated it and hadn't noticed the ticking yet. Vince was the first to crack. He'd been scrolling his phone for 20 minutes, tapping, swiping, frowning. Then he stood up and walked off toward the beach bar. 5 minutes later, he came back, phone pressed tight to his ear, jaw clenched. "No," he snapped. "No, that's impossible." "I didn't. Hello? Hello?" Dana didn't look up. "Can we not have work calls today?" she mumbled. I still closed. Vince ignored her. He opened his banking app again. Then again. Then he cursed under his breath and stared at her, something cold slipping into his voice. "My wife canceled all the cards." Dana blinked once. "What? All of them? Credit? Debit?" "She locked the business account too." Dana sat up slowly. "Wait, what do you mean your wife? You told me." "I told you a lot of things." She unlocked her own phone, fingers suddenly shaky. Notifications started pouring in. "Fraud alert. Unusual activity detected on your Capital One account. Attention, your checking account has been temporarily frozen. Warning, charge declined, insufficient funds." She tried refreshing. Nothing moved. Nothing worked. Her screen froze on a red exclamation mark next to her mobile banking app. Dana looked up from the screen like someone just slapped her mid-massage. That's when they saw hotel security walking toward them. 2 men, neatly dressed, polite but firm. One was holding a printed statement. "Mrs. Larson," one of them asked. Dana stood up slowly. "It's Thompson. Dana Thompson." The taller guard didn't blink. "We need a new form of payment. The card on file has been reported as compromised. Until it's resolved, we'll need to suspend your access to the room and any resort services." Vince muttered, "Jesus," and started gathering his things. Dana's voice cracked. "This is a misunderstanding." The guard nodded sympathetically, but you could tell it was rehearsed sympathy, customer service on autopilot. "Of course. Happens all the time. You can speak to billing in the lobby." As they walked off, Vince hissed at her, "You used your real name?" "Your real name." She ignored him. Her phone buzzed again. From Amanda Larson. Subject, enjoying the suite? She didn't open it. She just stood there, clutching her coconut like it was a flotation device. The sea was still. The sky cruelly blue. And her fantasy? Sinking by the second. They were escorted out with that quiet kind of firmness that only luxury staff can deliver. No yelling. No scene. Just 2 polite knocks on the suite door, and a pair of men in tailored vests informing them that their access had been revoked until payment could be resolved. Dana tried arguing, first with charm, then with confusion, then with volume, but the front desk manager had already heard it all. "I can call someone," she insisted, holding up her phone like it was a weapon. Vince had already given up. He threw his half-packed duffel over his shoulder, muttering something about needing air, and disappeared down the hall. He never came back for her. The concierge held out her printed bill with a soft smile that said, "You're not the first fool we've seen cry in this lobby." Dana took it with shaking fingers. $2,763, it read. Most of it room service and add-ons. Most of it things Dana never even asked for. Except she did. Just not in the way she remembered. She called Frank. No answer. She called again. Straight to voicemail. "Frank, listen, there's been a mistake. I think someone's hacked." Blocked. Her third attempt came back with a cold, final message. "This number is no longer available." Panic sank into her chest like wet cement. She stood in the middle of the resort lobby, trembling under the air conditioning, surrounded by tan strangers in flip-flops and floppy hats, each of them blissfully unaware that she was unraveling in real time. She spent that night at a cheap motel 5 blocks from the resort. The Wi-Fi barely worked. The bed had a cigarette burn through the comforter. There were no rose petals, no champagne, no ocean view, just a stale vending machine down the hall and a couple arguing next door over child custody. Dana curled up in the corner of the bed and opened her gallery app, scrolling backward through beach selfies, blurred sunsets, and bathroom mirror shots of her and Vince. None of them looked like real people anymore. Back home, Frank poured himself a drink. On the security cam, he watched Dana's sister pull up to the curb. She stepped out of a beige SUV, popped the trunk, and walked up to the porch with a cautious look in her eye. She rang once. Frank didn't answer. She looked up at the camera, then bent down, picked up the duffel bag Frank had left by the door, and carried it back to her car. She opened the back seat, grabbed a box labeled bathroom and another marked shoes. Frank picked up his phone. "To Karen, Dana's sister. Thanks. She'll need the rest soon." He watched her read the message. She didn't reply. She just closed the trunk and drove off. No tears. No drama. Just the slow disassembly of someone else's life. Dana would be home soon. Only now, there was no home to come back to. Just a house that no longer recognized her. Monday morning at Kindbridge Women's Wellness looked like any other, except it wasn't. Dana pulled into the office lot 10 minutes late, hiding behind sunglasses far too large for fall weather. Her heels clicked across the tile like they still meant something, but her posture betrayed her. The bags under her eyes hadn't been covered well. Her lips were chapped. She hadn't slept. The front desk receptionist, usually chatty, barely glanced up. Just a muttered, "Good morning," followed by sudden interest in her keyboard. Dana kept walking. She didn't know that 2 hours earlier, the board of directors had received a slim manila envelope. No return address. No sender name. Just a bold black stamp across the seal, confidential. Inside, a copy of the resort bill, addressed to Mrs. Vince Larkson. 3 glossy screenshots. Dana lounging by the pool with a cocktail, Vince massaging her shoulders, and a 4th of the room service ticket for anniversary special add-in. A printed PDF of her flight confirmation, booked under her corporate email. And at the bottom, a clean printout of an email exchange between Dana and a board assistant where she explicitly referred to the Bahamas trip as a mental reset tied to the Foundation's self-care initiative. Convenient justification. Idiotic in retrospect. No note. No accusations. Just receipts. By the time Dana stepped into the building, the senior board members had already held a conference call. The HR director, Marla, was waiting near the elevators. "Dana," she said quietly, stepping in front of her, "could you come with me?" Dana blinked. "Is something wrong?" "Just step into the conference room." Inside sat 2 board members, silent and stiff. A legal rep, and a packet of documents with her name printed across the top. The same ones from the envelope. No one raised their voice. There was no yelling. No dramatic confrontation. There was only a 28-minute meeting. Then Dana emerged from the room with a white folder in her hand and nothing in her face. The office had gone completely silent. Phones weren't ringing. Conversations had frozen. Half the staff pretended to work. The other half openly stared. She didn't look at anyone as she walked to her desk, took her purse, and headed to the elevator. No one stopped her. No one said goodbye. She checked the folder again just to be sure. Suspension pending investigation. Not fired. Not yet. But it didn't matter. In her field, nonprofit leadership tied to women's advocacy, this wasn't just a blemish. It was radioactive. She pressed the elevator button 3 times. It didn't go any faster. When the doors closed, she finally breathed. Not relief, not grief, just dread. Thick and slow, like wet cement in her throat. Because she knew, this wasn't just about her job. It was about who she pretended to be, and the kind of people who'd finally stopped pretending back. She pulled into the driveway just before 7, expecting to find the porch light on, maybe even dinner still cold on the stove, some pathetic attempt at normalcy she could sink her claws back into. But the house was dark, not empty, just sealed, the way a tomb is sealed. Dana got out of the car, heels wobbling slightly on the uneven stone path. Her suitcase dragged behind her like an apology. She reached into her purse, pulled out her keys, and slid the main one into the lock. It didn't turn. She tried again. Slower. Jiggled. Pulled back. Pushed in. Nothing. She muttered under her breath and reached for her phone, already composing the storm of a text in her head. Something biting. Something indignant. But before she could type a single word, her screen lit up. One new message. Frank. House was in my name before you ever moved in. I just never said anything. That was it. No hi. No sorry. Just a surgical slice straight through the ego. Dana stood there on the porch, stunned, the key still in her hand, as if she could will it to unlock the reality she used to live in. But that world was gone now, and she hadn't even noticed it slipping. Her eyes scanned the porch, familiar potted plants, the welcome mat she insisted on buying from that overpriced boutique, the bench where she used to fake morning phone calls. All of it still looked like her life, but none of it belonged to her. She tried the keypad next, punching in her old 4-digit code. It buzzed red. Access denied. Like the house itself was rejecting her. She pressed her forehead to the door. Frank, she whispered. Nothing. She rang the bell. Waited. Silence. She stepped back and glanced up at the camera mounted just under the roof. Its little red light blinked once, like a wink. Across the street, a neighbor was walking their dog. They waved politely. She didn't wave back. 10 minutes later, she was back in the car, slamming the door harder than she meant to. She didn't know where to go. Her sister wasn't answering. Her friends from work had gone radio silent since the nonprofit debacle. Vince hadn't texted since the hotel collapse. Even the burner number she had for him went straight to voicemail. The next place she pulled into had flickering neon lights and an available weekly sign. Not the Four Seasons. Not even a solid 3-star. They handed her a room key that still used an actual metal key. The bedspread was a scratchy paisley design. There was a stain on the chair by the window. Age undetermined, origin unknown. She sat down on the edge of the bed. It creaked. No silk robe. No minibar. No soft piano music. Just Dana Thompson, formerly Mrs. Frank Thompson, formerly Mrs. Larkson if you asked the hotel staff, now just Dana. A woman with no job, no access, and no door that would open for her. She kicked off her heels and stared at her phone. No texts, no calls, no Frank, and most terrifying of all, no version of herself she could crawl back into. The envelope arrived 2 days later, no return address, just Dana's name in tidy cursive. The handwriting looked soft, almost graceful, like it came from someone who still wrote thank you cards and meant them. She was staying at a mid-tier hotel off the interstate by then, rotating between panic Googling wrongful termination and texting Vince things like, we need to talk, messages he read, but never answered. Her hair was tied back, the roots showing. Her face, once surgically calm, now had creases that didn't leave when her expression changed. She opened the envelope over a styrofoam breakfast tray. Inside, a single sheet of cream stationery. Typed. No header. No signature. Just one paragraph, center-aligned. You and I were both lied to. Difference is, I got out with dignity. You? You sold yours for sand and wine. No name. But Dana knew. Amanda's words landed harder than any insult Frank had ever thrown. Because Amanda didn't rage. She didn't accuse. She didn't even sound angry. She sounded done. Dana crumpled the paper on instinct, her hand shaking, breath uneven. She stood up too fast, knocking over the tiny plastic cup of motel coffee, the brown liquid soaking the edge of the bedspread. She held the letter, crushed in her fist, then dropped it, then picked it back up, slowly smoothing it out with her palms. She tore it in half. Then, minutes later, taped it back together. Carefully. Back at the house, Frank was in the kitchen, sipping a black coffee, standing in front of the wall-mounted monitor that showed the front yard camera feed. Dana was there, standing just outside the gate, same crumpled envelope in her hand. She stared at the camera, puffy-eyed, blotchy-cheeked, her expression flickering between disbelief and pleading. She looked down at the letter again, read it a second time, and then as she cracked, the sob came out raw, deep from her chest, the kind of sob that doesn't ask for comfort, just release. She dropped to the curb, heels kicked off, mascara running, hugging her knees like a child left at the wrong house. The gate never opened. Frank didn't move, just turned the volume down on the monitor, walked back to his desk. There was nothing to say, nothing to fix. You don't fix a person who sold their dignity for a getaway suite and a man with a LinkedIn profile full of lies. You watch them fold, and let them tape themselves back together, crooked, cracked, and all alone. The final envelope arrived on a Thursday. By then, Dana had moved again, this time to a short-term rental near the airport, one of those soul-sucking corporate units with fake plants and laminated checkout rules taped to the fridge. The kind of place designed for people who've either fled something or been kicked out. She knew the envelope wasn't junk the moment she saw it. Heavy cream paper. Embossed logo in the corner, Oceanside Retreat and Spa. Her name, printed too precisely on the front, like a scalpel had carved it in. She sat at the kitchen island and opened it slowly, like it might bite. Inside, a 4-page itemized invoice. Every room service charge. Every upgrade. Every floral delivery, extra towel fee, minibar rate. It was all there, categorized by date and time. The numbers tallied in a perfect, merciless column. At the top of the first page, under billing contact, it read in crisp black type. Amanda Larkson. Dana's chest tightened. Her vision blurred. There was something else in the envelope. A post-it note. Pale yellow. Frank's handwriting. Next time, pick a lover whose wife doesn't have a better lawyer than you. No signature. She stared at it for a long time. Outside the window, she could just barely see the tip of the street where their house used to sit. Her house. At least that's how she used to think of it. A craftsman-style dream with a garden she never tended and a porch swing she only used for holiday photos. But now, it was a box she'd been evicted from by silence and signatures, and it had never really been hers. She thought about driving over, thought about banging on the gate, thought about begging. But then she remembered the footage. The day she stood crying on the curb while the house stared back at her through that unblinking camera. She remembered the gate that stayed locked, the neighbors who saw and didn't wave, the man inside who once offered her the world and now wouldn't offer her a single word. Dana folded the invoice and placed it neatly back in the envelope. She didn't cry. Not now. Not here. Some losses are too clean for tears. Some defeats too elegant for screaming. Frank hadn't burned her life down. He'd unplugged it. Quietly. Efficiently. Like a man shutting off the lights before locking the door one last time. And in the final tally, all that sand and wine had cost her more than money. It had cost her the last version of herself she still recognized.